Welcome to Annotations 101. Okay, so today you're here to learn about the key skills for annotating a text. I've chosen a poem just because it's quick and it's easy and it's something you can read through multiple times in order to get an understanding. The first thing you ought to do, especially with a poem, since it's so short, read it multiple times. Read it at least once, probably 2 or 3 times, before you even begin to mark up the text. That way you have a general idea of what you're looking for, especially when you go through and you're dissecting it much closer. Next, set up a key, just something in the corner, just so you know. I've chosen 4 basic things that I want to highlight. Specifically, any type of names that I find that are specific reference, um, I'm going to highlight those. Anything that I think has to do with a myth or a Greek mythology of any sort. And then anything I just don't know or understand, I'm going to put in blue. Also, I'm a very big person myself of just writing notes off to the side. So I drew my makeshift text box, and I'll just be typing out notes along the side. Um, Choose what makes sense to you. If you want to circle things, if you want to do boxes, if you want to do rainbow colors, it's completely up to you. My advice, though, is just keep it simple and keep it clear so that if you come back to this 6 months from now, you'll be able to look at it and understand what you were talking about. Okay, so the poem I chose is Ode to Psyche. It's by Jonathan Keith. It's an excellent poem. I think you'll enjoy it. I've already read through it before, and I'm going to go through it and start looking for information. There's 2 things that you want to look for when you're annotating text. You want to look for information that's going to help you understand the concrete information of the text. So just understanding what the author is physically trying to say in that specific sentence. And then 2, something that's much more abstract. You're looking for information that's going to reveal something about the poem that just looking at the sheer words is not going to give you. Okay, so we're going to begin, and the very first thing that pops out to me is the name Psyche. I know this from my mythology. I know that she is the wife of Cupid or Eros, the god of love. I know that she was a mortal who became a Greek goddess through marriage with Eros. Fix my. Okay, so I already know that to begin with, so I have a general idea of what's about to happen. It's an ode to Psyche, so I'm going to assume that since it's an ode, it's some kind of tribute. Okay, so we're going to ring. The very next thing that pops out to me is winged Psyche, so I'm going to highlight that. I don't exactly know what it's referencing to, so I'm going to put it in blue. I can make some educated guess, but I think I might have to read through the rest of the poem to have a deeper understanding. I'm continuing to read, and I definitely see something here that I do not understand. I do not know what Tyrian is. So, one of the great tools about English is that the internet is a great source. English nerds went to the internet and made it their own. So, I can easily look up the single word Tyrian, or if I'm annotating more difficult text, and there's a specific line that I know it has to mean something, but I don't know what it is myself. I can type that line into any search engine of your choice, and you'll be able to find the information you need. So I went and I googled Tyrian, and I found out that Tyrian means purple. So I'm just going to put that right there on the side because that's just going to help me later on remembering, oh yeah, that's what that is. And then once again down here I see winged boy. I know that that has to be a reference to our Greek gods, and we said up here that I was going to use purple for my myth. I know that has to be a reference to none other than Cupid, because Cupid is our winged boy, as we all know. And then I'm also going to highlight this over here. It says happy dove, and while dove may not be a specific reference to anything, I know from prior experience that doves are birds that symbolize peace and prosperity. So I think that might be useful later on just for general knowledge. Okay, as I keep reading, I see this line over here, and I know this has to be important, and that is this: of all of Olympus' fate hierarchy. This is reference to the 12 Greek gods who were considered the Big 12. They were the most famous Greek gods, they had the most worshippers, they had the most power. And saying that they're a fated hierarchy, so they're kind of referencing to the fall of their domain. Next, I see this name over here, and we said we were going to do names in green, so I'm going to highlight this. There's actually two names here. I see Phoebe and Vesper. Okay, sorry. And so I know that quick Google search tells me that Phoebe Phoebe is the evenings, is Selene, which is another goddess, name for the goddess of the moon, and that Vesper over here, she is the evening star. And so the evening stars, we know what that symbolizes. And we know that that kind of sends out a connotation of trying to get home and warmth and love. And it's also another name for Venus or Aphrodite, which again is the goddess of love. I'll fix that. Then we said Phoebe is Queen goddess of the moon. I'll just stick that right up there. Okay, next, the big thing I notice is that I'm just looking over here and I see that Keats is just listing lots and lots and lots of information. So that's just a stylistic thing. However, it is worth noting. So I'm just gonna put that right over here. And I also noticed that in this session, of all these lists and all these things, they're all items of worship. So I'm going to say that he's referring to somebody, the fact that Psyche has no one who's worshiping her. She's not love. Okay. And then we know the word oracle down here from our Greek mythology, and she is just a woman who tells the future. She makes prophecies and attempts to help with that information. Okay, so we're going to move on. A lot of information in this paragraph. It's kind of restating this whole theme that, Psyche has no one who's worshiping her, and that it's moving on to this right here, where Keats is saying, I will be your choir. Let me be the person who worships you. So it's kind of moving past where no one's loving Psyche to I will love Psyche. Next we are going to move on to our final stanza. And immediately I see two names of Greek mythological creatures that we need to reference. The first one is Zephyrs. Zephyr is the name of the west wind, and he is a servant to Cupid. Pardon my spelling. We know that he's servant to Cupid because the story is that Zephyr fell in love with this boy named Hyacinth, who was a dear friend of the god of Apollo, and Zephyr was just madly in love with Hyacinth, and love, and he got very jealous of the amount of time that he was spending with Apollo, and so when they were playing discus or frisbee one day, he adjusted the wind so that the discus would knock out Apollo, but the problem was he missed, and instead he hit Hyacinth, and he killed his true love. And Apollo was furious because he loved Hyacinth just as much as Zephyr, so he was scouring the globe looking for Zephyr, and Cupid offered to take him in under his wing, no pun intended, so that they could move on with their lives. And so Zephyr is always servant of Cupid. And then Dryads are just typical tree spirits. So they're just continuing this theme of nature that we've had throughout the poem. The next thing I see that I don't necessarily recognize this word. It's the trellis of a working brain. This is a super important line because a trellis is something that is structured. It's structuring a vine that's meant to be free and grow as it wishes. And the brain is something that has no structure, and it's rational, and there's no love moved in. And so the point is that he's trying to provide structure so that his dreams can take reality but still be warm and helpful as they could be. There's no human construct. And as we kind of ends with that same sentiment, like, let the love in, don't constrict yourself in any way possible. So in doing so, we've annotated this poem. As you can see, there's lots of color throughout it, so we know exactly what everything is. We put some notes off to the side, so we have all of our information. And now we can go through and hopefully make an argument for our text and make a clear, succinct argument based on the information we've gathered, and so we can have an understanding of the poem. And that is the whole point of annotation. It's so much easier than people think it is, and I guarantee you can do your own little version anytime you want. Thank you for listening.